Howdy, I am Matthew Gage, pastor at Faith Baptist Church in Decatur, Texas. Welcome back to our daily Bible study video. And we are going to be in Genesis chapter number 44 today, Genesis chapter number 44. And we are continuing this series of chapters here dealing with Joseph and his interaction with his brothers now that Joseph has been exalted in the land of Egypt and is basically, prime minister, second in command, how he's taking care of the land and prepared them for the famine that came, that was revealed to Pharaoh through the dream that Joseph interpreted. We've already seen how 10 of his brothers came down to seek food there in Egypt and how he dealt with them very roughly and sent them back, and then said, next time you better come, you better bring Benjamin, the youngest son, and also his brother, who Jacob didn't want to send, and how they end up going back and finally have to come back with Benjamin. And I'm kind of summarizing. I know I'm leaving out some details and such here, but you can go back and watch the previous couple of videos and get caught up. But chapter number 44, we have here picking up kind of from chapter 43, where the 11 brothers are there with Joseph, making all 12. But the 11 brothers are reunited. Benjamin is there. And then also it was Simeon, I believe, that was kept back as a prisoner. I was trying to look back, and Simeon kind of went blank there. I had to look back and find it. Simeon, who had been held as a prisoner, has been released. They just had this meal, kind of a celebration deal with Joseph and some of the noblemen there in Egypt. And in chapter number 44, we're going to have one last little trick that Joseph is going to play on his brothers, I guess you could say, in this ongoing deal. And once again, we'll address, why is he doing this? Why doesn't he just say, hey guys, look, I'm your brother? I think he's trying to figure out if his brothers have changed, if they've learned their lesson. I think he's fearing for the safety of Benjamin. I don't know if he trusted that he was still alive. Well, now he knows he's alive. And I really think in what happens in here, I like simple explanations, and I think the simplest explanation for this is that Joseph is trying to find a way to keep Benjamin there in Egypt to watch over him, to protect him, because he doesn't trust his brothers. So I think that may be the reason why this chapter is going to play out the way that it does. So let's jump in, chapter number 44, verse number 1. And he, that being Joseph, commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. That's just like he did before. Let them take some grain back with them, but told them to put the money back into the sack, back in the sacks also. Verse number 2. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. But here he takes and puts into Benjamin's cup this silver cup. What is this cup? We'll wait just a second. We'll come back to it. Verse 3. And as soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their asses. And when they had gone out of the city, and not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Yet ye have done, I'm going to get flustered by the series of words there. Ye have done evil in so doing. So basically sends his steward after them to catch them and say, hey, look, you've got the silver cup. How dare you? Why did you steal from my master? Now, I want to talk here about this silver cup, because here it's not only linked to Joseph. It's not only something he personally uses, which must mean that it's a personal property, something that would be noticed missing, not like, stealing something out of the cabinet. This is something he used maybe quite often, maybe at every meal, I don't know, but he used it. But also it says that he used it for divining. Now, I'm going to point out that in the scriptures, divining, when we get to the Mosaic law coming up, in fact, the reference is Deuteronomy 18, verse number 10, you'll see passages like that expressly forbid this work of divination, this work of divining the future. And in doing so, by the way, ancient cultures, this was a very common practice to have some sort of a bowl, usually with some kind of carving symbol, maybe stones or something, precious stones in it, that you put a little water or something in, and you would look at the reflection of the light and things and do incantations and supposedly be able to read the future into that. In fact, you can see those, they're fairly common in the archaeological world. You can see those things have been dug up. But the question here would be, well, is Joseph using this for divination? And once again, I like simple answers, and I don't think it's in the character of Joseph to do so. Joseph has divined things, but that is because it was divine revelation from God in revealing these dreams that the butler and the baker and the Pharaoh all had. So I don't think that he has used this for that purpose, but notice he says to tell them this is why. And I'm sure at this point that his brothers have heard the story about how this Joseph guy interpreted those dreams and, forecasted, prognosticated the future. And so when now they hear that they stole his special cup, and not just his cup, but maybe the cup he used to figure out the future, it just makes it that much worse of a crime. It's adding importance to this object. So I want to note here that in this verse, and then coming up down in verse number 15, Joseph is going to say something about divination again. But this one right here ties it to that cup itself. And I want to note, it didn't say that when it first was taken. When he said, they took Joseph's silver cup, was it back in verse number 2? It didn't say his divination cup or anything there. Here he's adding that to the story. So I really think this is just part of this story. He's not only going to accuse them of theft, but of stealing this very precious, sacred type object. Because once again, they don't know who he is. They think he's an Egyptian. So the cup there is put into Benjamin's bag, and now the steward is sent out after him. So let them get a little bit of a head start, and now they overtake them. Verse 6. And he overtook them and spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, so the response from the brothers here, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servant should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths, we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? So they said, why would we do this? We brought back the money you could have accused us of stealing our last visit. There's no way. We did not steal anything. We are innocent. They go so far as to say now, verse number 9, With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen. So they speak with quite a bit of confidence. Of course, now, remember, as far as they know, they're innocent. They're speaking now of an innocent heart here, because they don't know what Joseph has done. But this is pretty extreme, the language. We're saying, whichever one of us got it, you can kill him. Chop his head off right now. He's a dead man, and we'll be your slaves if you find that in the middle of all our stuff. Verse number 10, the steward replies, and he said, Now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. He says, okay, sounds like a good deal. Whoever finds it, he'll be my slave, but the rest of you can go. I'll just take the one that has this the treasure. Verse 11. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and began at the eldest and left at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. I think he did it on purpose. It went youngest, or from oldest to youngest, so he would get to Benjamin's last. Verse 13. Note their reaction. Then they rent their clothes and laid it every man his ass and returned to the city. Now, they had basically been told they were free to go. So we're going to find the one that has the silver cup. Whoever has it, we're going to take that man back. And, now he's going to be a slave. So the rest of you can go. But as soon as they see that one of them did have it, and of course it's the one person they didn't want to have it, what do? Well, the sign of extreme anguish and mourning. They rend their clothes. They rip their outer garments there, And they load up and they follow them back down into Egypt, back down the sea. They're not running from the situation at all. Verse 14. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph. Now note here, Judah is mentioned first, Judah and his brethren, partly because he's going to speak, but also partly remember that he kind of has taken that primary place of the birthright. And I think a lot of it is because of his actions right here. Judah is stepping up and being the leadership in the family right here. Continuing verse 14. For he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. So they come to Joseph, and they fall down before him, showing the proper respect and obeisance. I mean, they're begging at this point from Joseph. Verse 15. And Joseph said unto them, What deed is this that ye have done? Wot ye not that such a man as I can certainly divine? So his, putting on this pompous air and looking down at them and says, How dare you? Why could you do such a thing? Don't you think I've noticed? Don't you think a man as powerful as I, maybe kind of playing that trumped up, perceived sorcery card there, saying, don't you think I could figure out what you did? Don't you think it would be revealed to me? And once again, in this, is Joseph saying this because that's what he does? I honestly think he's playing a part here. He's trying to, upplay his power and his significance and playing to the part of this superstitious Egyptian in these words. I don't know that what he's saying there is the truth. In fact, I kind of doubt what he's saying because he's really trying to elevate himself over his brothers. Verse number 16, we will begin here Judah's response, which will be take up most of the rest of the chapter here, beginning here, verse number 16. And Judah said, What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak? Or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. And they say, okay, look, he's basically saying, we'll surrender all ourselves. We'll all be your slaves. God has found this out. We didn't know anything about it. And to prove our innocence, we will be your slave also. Verse 17. And he, that's Joseph, said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get you up in peace unto your father. Once again, I think this is kind of reading between the lines. I think this may be a scheme that Joseph is using, trying to separate his younger brother to keep him in Egypt, safe and away from those rascals of brothers that he had. Verse number 18, Judah is going to continue. And these words, we're going to cut off at the end of them and not see the response. But when we get to chapter 45, these words just break Joseph's heart. And in this story that's told, in this presentation by Judah, is going to, I think, prove to Joseph that his brothers are truly sorry and repented for what they had done to him in the course of what is said here. I think this proves to Joseph that his brothers were changed men from what they had been before. Verse number 18. Then Judah came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let thy servant speak. I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have ye a father or a brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one. And his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Bring him down unto me, that I may set mine eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. So like I said, he's just going through telling the story, saying, look, we came down here, you asked, we told you we had a father, we had one more brother, or two more brothers, one that was dead, the other one that was, the apple of the father's eye, the youngest, the one born to that same beloved wife as the dead brother. And we said, we don't want to bring him down here because, it'd just break our father's heart. He would die of a broken heart if something happened to your brother. But you said, bring him down. You said to do this. Verse 23. And thou saidst unto thy servants, except your youngest brother come down with you, ye shall see my face no more. And it came to pass when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, go again and buy us a little food. And we said, we cannot go down. If our youngest brother be with us, then will we go down. For we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant, my father, knows there, that obeisance is being done here. I believe that's the proper word for the respect. It's not just saying, they're not saying, my father and elevating him. He's saying he's your servant too. He's respecting you too. Continuing verse 27 said to us, ye know that my wife bare me 2 sons, and the one went out from me, and I said, surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if ye take this also from me, and mischief befall him, ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now, verse 28, looking at that, I think that's the first time that Joseph has heard that story. He's heard that, what they had, the cover story that, animals, a lion, a bear must have got a hold of Joseph. Now he's hearing that was the story. Verse 30, now therefore, when I come to thy servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, verse 31, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die, and thy servant shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. So, they're saying, look, if we go back and tell him that Benjamin's not with us, it's going to break his heart. He's an old man. He won't last. He'll die if Benjamin does not come down. We have to come back with Benjamin, or we can't come back at all. Verse 32. For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, if I bring him not unto thee, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. So he's telling this is what he had said before, chapter 43, verse number 9, if you want to look that up, where Judah had stepped forward and said, look, if he doesn't come back, you can kill me. Verse 33. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that shall come on my father? So here is Judah now basically sacrificing himself and saying, look, if you'll take me, then my brother, can go in peace. Just keep me instead, take me instead of my brother. So hearing that, and then of course knowing this, and knowing that, going back to chapter number 37, I was going back here just to double check, Judah is also the one that came up with the plot to sell Joseph. So Joseph knows that, and I'm sure he's probably harbored a lot of hatred towards Judah in that. You can find that chapter 37, verse number 26. So, probably he's harbored a lot of anger and resentment towards Judah. But now, seeing the actions that his brother is doing, and seeing the love, the care for his father, the care for his brother, and seeing that Judah is willing to, give away his life to save Benjamin's life, something that they wouldn't have done with Joseph before. He's now seeing the changed heart in his brothers, and I think that leads to what Joseph is going to do in chapter number 45. But that's for next time as we wrap up chapter 44 here. So anyway, I appreciate you watching, and I hope it's been a help and a blessing to you.